We are meant to say yes to food. That's how we're wired from an evolution perspective. We're not meant to walk past food. And now we now live in this environment where there's just food everywhere, and no one's to blame. I mean, if you think about from a society perspective, what's two things you need to do at least two things you need to do for your people? One is make the day safer. Two, feed your people. Okay, we've done both those things really, really well. Unfortunately, no one knew that an obesity epidemic was going to come with those things. So I like to remind people, like, this is bigger than yourself. There's global forces at play, and we have to have strategies for the modern world.
New choices, new players, new models of care. You know, consumer first healthcare is everywhere. For us to build the future, to see what's new, we gotta look at the world from a different point of view. Consumer innovation ain't going away. I say it's here to stay. Today it leads the way. We gotta drop the silos. We're all the same team. Experience, business, tech, and marketing. So join us now. Join the revolution. Consumer first health is the evolution. Status quo or like status no. Yeah, this is the healthcare rap. Yo, come on, let's go.
Welcome back to the leading podcast about consumer-centered healthcare. We're continuing to drive change at the intersection of traditional sick care and consumer-based well care. Our goal is to influence healthcare leaders to design services and experiences that are centered around how people actually engage with their health and to share what we learn with everyday consumers. I'm Jared Johnson, and this is episode 444. Today we have the Flava of the Week about what else? The White House Health Tech event that's dominated our feeds for the last couple of weeks. Just what was it again? Who was there? And what commitments did they actually make? I'll talk about that. Then Dr. Tim Church, Chief Medical Officer at Wondr Health, gives one of the most well-rounded perspectives on the current state of preventive health, why it's easy for everyday people to feel confused about new weight loss options, and what he recommends to do when you feel like your personal health is stuck. It's time for the awesomeness, y'all. Are you ready? Let's go.
Flava of the Week.
What if we really do make health tech great again? By now, there's a really good chance that you've heard about the White House event held on July 30th. The White House gathered over 60 health and tech leaders to kickstart a movement that could finally make health tech live up to its promise for us, the people. While it's dominated my LinkedIn feed ever since, Ryan Howells from the Karen Alliance and our recent guest on episode 426 said that the best non-opinionated summary of the announcement was a recap from HIMSS. So I'll quote from their post. To summarize, major healthcare delivery providers and technology developers, including Amazon, Apple, Google, and OpenAI, have pledged support for the CMS Health Tech Ecosystem Initiative, a voluntary effort to enhance interoperability and patient access to data. During the event, co-hosted with CMS, 21 networks pledged to meet the new CMS interoperability framework criteria to become CMS-aligned networks, and more than 60 companies pledged to collaborate to develop data-driven, personalized tools by the first quarter of 2026. Participating networks must facilitate patient access to patient data such as clinical data, claims information, and prior authorizations via an app of the patient's choice that meets CMS requirements. Participating EHR products and providers must give participating networks access to structured and unstructured data. You know, it's interesting to me that this was a real-time alignment across CMS, ONC, innovators, incumbents, and disruptors to build this patient-centric healthcare ecosystem where data moves seamlessly, AI is safe and effective, and consumers have real agency over their health. So what would it look like for patients if this succeeds? Several things. It would mean no more toggling between portals, no more faxes or confusion about which doctor has what data. You'd walk into any clinic, urgent care, or pharmacy, and they'd already have the info they need with your consent. Your health journey, preferences, and history could follow you like a passport, not a puzzle. It would mean AI that's trained responsibly with patient safety as the baseline, not the afterthought. As Hippocratic AI's Mike Deegan said, it's about ensuring we do no harm while driving innovation forward. It would mean seeing platforms like BeWell, Commonweal, and Clear, who are all there, helping to stitch together identity, access, and trust across the care continuum. It would mean developers co-building APIs with CMS, not lobbying against them. And it would mean a whole new level of partnership between government and the private sector. As Stephen Kanya pointed out, this wasn't a panel, it was a working session. It was about co-creating with the industry rather than just talking to them. As Commonwealth's Paul Wilder said, 2025 is 2013 all over again. And it's true in many ways. I just can't help but think that the momentum feels a little different this time. We have more maturity, better better tech and stronger convictions that consumer-first care isn't just nice to have, it's essential. And yes, I can see why some feel like it's Groundhog Day. It's easy to feel cynical after the failures of the past. The question now is, will we do our typical health tech thing, sit back and say, told you so, when this initiative doesn't get us to where we want to go? Or will we plug in and each do our part to make it succeed? You can guess which one I'm going to pick. Let's build a future where patients don't have to ask for their data. It's already where they need it. And let's stop debating whether health tech can scale responsibly and start doing it. That's another way that we'll build the healthcare of tomorrow. And that's the Flava of the week. Hey y'all, I'm here with Sina Arham, founder of Friday's Health. Sina, what do you think is broken in the traditional approach to metabolic health, and what are you doing to flip the script?
Let's be honest, the moment in metabolic health is being driven by the GLP-1 receptor agonist class of medications, right? We finally have something that is addressing metabolic health, obesity, and type 2 diabetes in an elegant fashion, right? It's efficacious, it's manageable for patients. And so I think we're having our moment in metabolic health in that the old guard of tackling metabolic health and obesity has a lot of stigma attached to it, a lot of shame and blame and guilt.
Thanks, Sina. Visit joinfridays.com for more information and tell them you heard about it from the Healthcare Wrap.
Healthcare Wrap is sponsored by Cyril. Whether you're trying to drive patient volume as a healthcare provider, boost membership enrollment as a health insurer, drive improved adherence rates in pharma, or deepen strategic B2B partnerships throughout the healthcare ecosystem, Cyril can help you with your go-to-market efforts and growth targets, enabling you to reach the clinical and financial goals of your healthcare organization. For more information, go to Cyril.com. That's CYRALL.com.
The flow.
All right, let's get into the flow, folks. Please welcome my guest this week. I'm here with Dr. Tim Church. He's the Chief Medical Officer at Wondr Health. We'll get into this a little bit more about Wondr Health and how it's different than other offerings on the market and what it's trying to accomplish, what problems it's trying to solve, how it's trying to help consumers in their health and wellness journeys. And then there's a lot behind Dr. Church. I think we'll get into some of his approach and philosophy in general about some of these topics. So, Dr. Church, let's welcome you in. How are you?
Jared, thank you. Yeah, couldn't be better. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I'm super looking forward to this. My favorite topic.
Remind me, where is home for you? Like, where are you based?
So we're going to say Murphy, Texas, which sounds really exotic, but it's just a suburb of Dallas. So we're Dallas, Texas.
See, I should have done that homework so we can have this whole conversation because I'm in Phoenix now, but I lived in Allen, Texas for quite a long time.
Oh, we're neighbors.
So, okay, we could go down that rabbit hole for a long time. But for those who don't have the map in front of them, I'm very close to Murphy.
Yeah, next door.
Well, okay, so let's get to know you a little bit more. Okay, so besides Murphy, Texas, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your journey into healthcare.
You know, it's wild because my journey so parallels the obesity epidemic. When I was in med school, when dinosaurs ruled the earth, I was looking at the data and I'm like, there's this thing coming and it's going to be called the obesity epidemic and it's going to impact everything we do. And this is probably 90s. And frankly, people thought I was crazy. I'm like, no, there's nothing that's going to stop this. This is going to impact everything. And my path into it actually wasn't through weight loss. It was through exercise. I was an exercise and everything researcher, exercise in cancer, exercise in clinical depression. But I kept running up against weight. So eventually I kind of spent more and more time in all things weight loss related research, hopefully as it related to exercise. One of the common themes, and it's going to come up as we talk today, that I couldn't run away from as I worked in weight and to some extent in exercise is this is a mental health game. Like everybody wants to make this about the number on the scale. Everybody wants to make this about percent body fat. Everybody wants to make this about calories in, calories out. Kind of. This is a mental health game. Like if you're out of balance in your life, one of the things you're going to maybe lose balance with is your eating and your movement. And in working with, I don't even know how many thousands of people at this point, but it's like one of the first things I ask is like, what's going on in your life? And usually that's the root of whatever's going on that scale. So that's been my path.
Let's talk about where Wondr fits in that equation and then dive deeper into how it actually works and like for somebody who's enrolled.
So we're going to start off by saying we're a weight loss company, which isn't true. We're a whole human being company. We treat human beings, not scales. But nonetheless, we get put in the weight loss bucket. So let's acknowledge that. We work with companies and we help those employees get healthier and hopefully, and we've demonstrated we could do this, reduce healthcare costs.
So walk me through that for somebody who ends up getting enrolled, or how do you refer to that? Is it's employer-based? Does somebody choose to enroll? Or how does that experience work?
100%. So first and foremost, the company has to sign up. So when the company signs up, then we work with their broker, their benefits consultant, and then we work with their insurance carrier, and we get all the billing because we bill as a medical claim. Another unique element. We've been doing this since before anybody else figured this out. We have a behavioral weight loss program, now a behavior plus medication program where we bill as a medical claim. So it's all covered on the back end. And because it's preventative, you don't ever see a copay. Once a company says yes to us, we're going to launch a campaign. It could be mail, it could be postcards, it could be emails, it could be any number of ways we reach out to invite people to step into our behavioral program. And then they step in. We make the enrollment process as slick and easy as possible. We tailor it. We figure out, what do you have challenges with? Are you an emotional eater? Are you a social eater? Are you somebody who's always hungry? What's your level of activity? What comorbidities do you have? Do you have hypertension? Do you have type 2 diabetes? All those things are going to go into the behavioral program, the digital first behavioral program you're going to get. Once a week, well, first of all, you have access to all kinds of resources. We'll get to those. But the core program, once a week, it's about 20 to 25 minutes. That's it. Again, tailored to you. And there's some logic to when we release things. Like, it doesn't make sense to talk to you about weight loss maintenance if you're in the fourth week of weight loss. It doesn't make sense to you to talk about the power of exercise and helping keep weight off, again, if you're still in active weight loss. So we try to keep it as easy and user-friendly as possible. One example was our week one video when we started this thing a long time ago. It used to be an hour and a half. Okay, our week one video is now less than 30 minutes. And that's one of our longer videos. So that's the world we live in. It has to be relevant to the individual or they simply aren't going to engage.
Hey y'all, I'm here with Jessica Holton, co-founder of Ours Privacy. Jessica, how do health systems know how much marketing data to track?
Know what you're optimizing for. We see and hear about a lot of teams that are tracking everything they possibly can, which you would think is more info is better, and we can make more decisions if we have more information. But actually, it just sends more data that is potentially PHI, and you have less control over it when you're tracking everything. Instead, choose 1 to 2 key metrics that you are tracking and focus on those metrics.
Thanks, Jessica. Visit oursprivacy.com for more information and tell them you heard about it on the Healthcare Wrap. So are those some of the reasons that people have success with Wondr? Because, I mean, so many people try so many different ways to lose weight. Like, why do those other programs fail? And that's something that helps.
The number one reason we have success, I believe, is, again, we treat human beings, not the scale. And that starts with eliminating shame. A lot of shame goes with carrying extra weight. You want to meet somebody who beats themselves up 24 hours a day, talk to somebody who's carrying extra weight and they've been carrying it a long time. They may not talk about it out loud, they might not share it with others, but it's always there. So the idea first of saying you're not the only one, and this is physiology, this is not willpower, this is the human body and the biology and the physiology. And when you can help people understand that there's some big forces at play here, but here's some skills you can use to get on a path of success. Telling somebody, hey, don't go to buffets, that's not an answer. Giving somebody skills to deal with a buffet, to deal with the Christmas party, to deal with the bowling night, that's an answer. You want to give people skills they can use in everyday life, still enjoy the meal, but probably eat half the calories they would have otherwise. So it starts with treating human beings like human beings.
Yeah, it's amazing at this point that we're still having to make that distinction about that this is about a person, and not a problem or a number, that this is still all about people at the end of the day. it's wild that we still have to make that distinction.
The topic of weight, not quite politics. It's not quite money. It's not quite religion. It's somewhere in between. And that's one of the really important things like you got to do in my shoes is when you walk into a room and you're there to talk about weight, you got to figure out everybody's biases. Oh, somebody's aunt had a horrible bariatric surgery. Somebody else lost a whole bunch of weight on keto. Somebody else was unsuccessful on a GLP-1. And those biases always come into the conversation.
That's important to put that in here. I mean, you're talking about a personal problem, right? Obesity for sure is often talked about as a personal problem. But then you have to say, like, to get to the solution here, you have to take a more holistic approach. So even though, you think like this, what's wrong with me is the question, like you were saying, that the shame leads to, what am I doing wrong? Or what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out?
But again, it's biology. We don't say the same thing about eczema. We don't say the same thing about cancer. We don't say the same thing about a broken leg. And they're all medical problems. It's very fascinating how we put excess weight into this very different category than we put hypertension, arthritis, but it's still a medical problem. It's a fascinating place we put obesity.
For sure. So how should people be thinking differently about their weight and health? Like, what are some of those things that you share in those moments?
The world has changed. Like, we all sit down for a living. We wrote a paper, 1960, 1 out of 2 Americans worked at work. They did enough physical work that it was exercise. So half of America, when they went to work, used to exercise. Now it's probably less than 5%. And on top of that, the food environment, it's like we are meant to say yes to food. That's how we're wired from an evolution perspective. We're not meant to walk past food. And we now live in this environment where there's just food everywhere and no one's to blame. I mean, if you think about from a society perspective, what's 2 things you need to do for at least 2 things you need to do for your people? 1 is make the day safer. So remove physical work, makes the day safer. 2, feed your people, okay? There used to be a time where feeding people was an issue. Okay, we've done both those things really well. Unfortunately, no one knew that an obesity epidemic was going to come with those things. So I like to remind people, like, this is bigger than yourself. There's global forces at play, and we have to have strategies for the modern world.
Well, okay, so let me bring this back to the employer side then, right? Because those conversations need to happen, clearly. They're part of this path or this journey. I know you've worked with thousands of employers yourself. How can somebody working a 9-to-5 job, they're not one of those 5% who are doing that much work at work anymore? How can somebody find support for their health goals through their job? I mean, I've always found it fascinating that that's one of the sources of us that we rely on for health benefits. Like, what about health goals in particular?
It is fascinating. That's another topic for another day. Again, I think it's creating a plan and strategies that fit in your life. Too many people, I'll hear, I hate to run, therefore I don't exercise. Okay, then don't run. Find things you love to, on the movement side, find things you love to do. I love the bowl. Okay, that's movement. I love the golf. That's movement too. I prefer you walk the course than use the cart, but it's still movement. I love the ballroom dance. Awesome. Never did I say in there, go for a jog. On the eating side of things, it's not taking things away. It's teaching people how to, do it in a way that it's not in excess. But it's also small things like, hey, if you're not getting enough sleep or if you're not getting enough quality sleep, you're going to be really challenged to eat healthy the next day. So all this stuff's connected. If you're moving more, you sleep better. If you sleep better, it's easier to make better eating choices. All these things are connected. Part of it is figuring out what are your particular challenges, what are some skills we can give you to address those challenges, and let's develop a plan to address those challenges.
Again, kind of thinking of somebody who is probably thinking about that on a daily basis, but maybe not connecting the dots of what benefits are available through their employer. I mean, is there a different conversation at that point?
No, it's a great point because not all employers are going to support this. The ones who do, they do it for different reasons. But in our particular instance, I got to be careful with this one because it depends on how we look at it. For every dollar that is spent with us, these are real dollars. These are real claims analysis. We didn't do them. And this was done part of contractual stuff. We save between $2 and $4 for every dollar spent with us. And at a company level or at a corporate level, I said, that's why you go with us. We're going to save you money on that healthcare spend. At an individual level, we're going to increase your quality of life. We're going to make you feel better about yourself. We're going to improve your energy. Those are the things we use to kind of help people step in and help companies step in.
The timing for this conversation is so good, right? Because there are so many new weight loss medications on the market. There's a lot of buzz around them very clearly. They're talked about all the time. We've had other guests on who have referred to the number of everything from diabetes medication consults to just other preventive and wellness types of visits are all on the rise. What about somebody who's listening here and they're interested, they hear these things too, but they're confused, right? They don't know which way to go.
They should be confused. In today's world, with social media, with the press cycle being 30 seconds instead of 30 days, it's such a confusing time. And I feel for the average person who doesn't have access to resources or happen to know somebody who's an expert in this space. It's confusing. We are in a wonderful time. These medications are remarkably powerful. They are remarkably beneficial. By the way, something a lot of people don't talk about, they have benefits way beyond the weight loss. We are all going to be on these medications at some point. They're going to make a version of this medication that doesn't impact weight. It impacts inflammation, and we're all going to be on it for healthy aging. So we're on the real front end of this. There's a limited number of the types of medications. In a few years, there's going to be a lot of these medications, and there will be a medication for every circumstance. But the most important thing to understand about these medications, and this is hard to get your head around because most medications are not like this, you need a Sherpa. You need support when you go on these medications. You need to help in the beginning with the side effects, the nausea, the vomiting, what do I eat, how much do I eat, when do I eat. The odds of you figuring that on your own are not great. As you get success, people are going to come into your life who are not supportive. How do I deal with those people? How do I deal with the saboteurs in my family? And then when you really start to get into the journey, it's a new you. And if somebody's not there to help you come to grips with the new you and your expectations, a lot of people, when I lose this weight, I'm going to get a job promotion. When I lose this weight, my relationship with my daughter is going to improve. When I lose this weight, fill in the blank. We learned this from bariatric surgery. This is not new science. Those things don't happen generally. And people get very depressed if they put unrealistic expectations on that scale. So that's part of the support that is needed. So while I'm very enthusiastic about these medications, I'm a little bit nervous because the vast majority of people are not being supported right now. Every time you read a horrific story in the New York Times or Wall Street Journal about somebody's journey, I can read it and be like, yeah, no one supported them. They got their meds from their dermatologist. They said, see you later, come back in 3 months. And there was no one there to support them. So I think the behavioral element, the support element is just as important in these medications as we move forward. And I don't see anything in the near future that's going to change that.
What's going to get us to that point faster? Is there like a critical point where is it just continued discovery of new formulations of the medications themselves? Do we get to a certain point as a society that we get better at supporting or we get better at accepting?
It's two things. And it's funny, you're seeing them both happen right now. A lot of companies are coming to us who originally said no to us. They're coming back to us and being, hey, we really need your support. We were a behavioral program first. We were a support program first before we ever had medications come into play. These medication programs are medication first. These curriculums are hard to write. These curriculums are hard to film. It's costly. It's challenging. So that's going on the support side. On the medication side, there's 40 medications in the pipeline right now. It's just a matter of how quickly they come out and put price pressure. When these things get below $300 a month, that's when there's going to be a definitively positive ROI. And we're going to see the lid ripped off this thing. The other thing that's going to change in Q1 of next year, when the orals start coming out, when it's no longer needle, it's oral medications. I keep warning these employers. I'm like, you think they're popular now? Wait till the pill comes out. which is supposed to be Q1 of next year. They're going to get approved likely at the end of this year. Q1 of next year, they launch, and that's going to be a game changer. Yet again, hey, wonderful, it's a pill, but are you supporting your people on these medications?
Yeah. I love that that's the question to ask. I see that as being critical as well for us to get to that point at the right stage. What about someone who is feeling stuck, or they've tried things, they say nothing works for me, which I think is pretty common. What's the first small step you recommend for them?
If truly nothing works for you, you need to talk to a professional. Because to me, when I hear that 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times, it's problem solving. 99 out of 100 times, the right topic was not brought up in the discussion. And you don't know me that well, Jared, but I'm incredibly blunt and open and honest. When people say nothing works for me, about half the time it's alcohol.
Okay.
Half the time they're doing all the things dietary, they're moving. Unfortunately, alcohol is calorically dense. It makes you metabolize your food different, and it makes you make belly fat. So I'm not saying that you have to quit drinking, but a lot of times you can win a big battle just by cutting back. So a lot of times when I hear I'm stuck, and other times, to be fair, when people say I don't have time, well, sometimes they don't. And sometimes they really don't. Sometimes they're working 2 jobs. They got 3 kids. They're the only parent. Maybe they're a caretaker too. And a lot of times I'll be like, hey, you know what? Your circumstances are challenging. Let's give yourself some grace. Let's figure out a few things you can win. And as your kids get older, we'll figure out a few more things. So if someone's really stuck, truly stuck, then it's time to talk to a professional.
I can see why there's a lot of momentum behind this approach. I want to give you a last moment here, kind of a final word. Anything else we haven't touched on yet?
Finding partners to help you on this thing that really know what they're doing, that are truly experts, that have experience in this space. We've published 7 articles. Okay, we're not, and I keep saying about us, but it's so critical as you walk down this path, all things weight loss, especially weight loss medications, to find a partner who has been there and done that and bought the t-shirt and are industry leaders. I keep watching people get horribly burnt by startup companies that'll tell them anything. I see it over and over again. And that would be my big advice. Man, work with people who know what they're doing, and you know the outcomes, you know the expenses, the ROI. There's just transparency everywhere. You asked me a simple question and I rambled, but you get my point.
Absolutely. No, that's the direction that makes, again, it all makes sense. And I think that's something I noticed with solutions that there's a need for, is that it makes sense to us as human beings. We don't have to filter it through this whole process of, well, does that fit in how healthcare has been delivered in the past? It's like, no, like, does it work right now? And I think that's the answer pretty clear here in this case. Dr. Church, I want to thank you for joining us today on the program. Thanks for everything you're doing to make healthcare more consumer-centered. And thank you for being there to be able to provide these answers and to give direction to people on this journey. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jared. I really appreciate the opportunity. More importantly, I look forward to doing it again.
Likewise. We will plan on that. Thanks so much.